Okay, so our tomatoes are getting established. They're getting their first flowers here. So now is a good time to start pruning these guys. You want to make sure you know what type of tomato you have, if it's determinate or if it's indeterminate. I actually just got done pruning this one. This is an indeterminate tomato. So I cut off everything down here. I like to go up about 8 to 12 inches. I don't like to have anything on the ground. That way I can water down here. We don't have bug issues. For example, like this is going to cause problems. So we're going to get all that cleaned up. And since this is indeterminate, it can just keep growing and growing. These are good to trellis. So I'm actually going to grow this one up this trellis. And I also have indeterminate tomatoes growing back here that I'm going to grow over my arch. So let's take a look. This is why I keep my cards. So this is a Cherokee purple. And let's see what we can find out here. So this says right here it's indeterminate. You see that? So indeterminate tomato plants like to be pruned a lot. And there's some certain ways to do this. So, and I'll kind of talk more about this as the season goes on, but to start with, we're gonna go under here, and like I said, we're gonna get rid of anything that's close to the bottom. We don't want any of this stuff down here. So I kind of just start cutting away. Sometimes people have a hard time cutting off branches with fruit on them. That gets easier, and you'll find that your tomatoes really love it if you get rid of all this stuff. For example, like this branch was gonna have some fruit on it, but we don't want it down here anyway. I know, I wish you guys could see better. I feel like my camera keeps like focusing and unfocusing here. So I'm just gonna hack off everything at the bottom. I'm gonna take all of this out. This is another one that I like to remove. So we really only need this main stalk. This is actually, gosh, I forgot what they call them, but it's like a ground branch, and we don't need that. So we're gonna cut that off. And that's kind of a big guy to cut off, but it's gonna be better for our plant in the long run. Let's see what else we can get off here. Make sure you have some really nice, sharp, clean shears so that you don't introduce diseases to your plant. Let's see how that looks. Oh, that looks good, doesn't it? Let's cut off a little bit more. I think I'm gonna get rid of this guy over here. See that? Look at that. I know, it's tough, but these plants are gonna keep growing and they're gonna love us for pruning. So that's about 6 inches or so above the dirt. I might even take off a little bit more. Here, let's take off this one. That'll open it up even more. All right, look at that. So now when you come by, you can just water down here. Tomato plants don't like getting their leaves wet, and that also prevents diseases if you can keep their leaves dry and just come along with your hose and just water the bottom of them. Now, as this plant gets bigger, I might even cut more off the bottom of it. We'll see, but for now, I'm gonna leave it like this. And I'm just gonna go around to all of them. You can see this one needs to be done. I'm gonna do the same thing. And then if you guys remember, I told you I like to grow romaine in between. You can see we're already getting crowded in here. But after I go through and I prune all this up, it'll open it up so that you can see the romaine better, and the romaine can still get light. And then we'll be harvesting these in the next few weeks here. So I'll post a couple of before and after pictures too. Okay, when I went to prune this plant, I thought of something else I want to tell you guys. So when I got in here, you can see I already have fruit growing. So I have fruit growing on this branch. So really anything underneath that branch we can take off. That'll give the plant more energy to put put into growing the fruit instead of growing these new branches. We call these suckers. So I'll give you an example. So this is actually, this is a really big sucker. Let me show you a small one first. So you see this little guy growing right here in between. If you look for a Y or a V, this little guy growing in between is a sucker, and you can go and pull those off your plant. But I'll show you a big sucker. So you see this V right here? So this whole thing is actually a sucker that just got really big, and this will grow fruit, but my plant is putting a lot of energy into this, so I actually want to remove it. So we're gonna go through, I'm gonna cut this guy off. Let's see if you can see that. So I just took that whole thing off. And like I said, your plant's like this, so don't be scared. I think I'm just gonna cut all of these off. Let's get crazy. I got like 15 tomato plants, so. Look at that, like opening this up. Look at that, oh my gosh, huge difference already. I'm gonna cut this guy off, this guy. I know, these are big branches we're losing. Some people get like really freaked out about this. Here's another one of those ground guys. I think, so now the other thing, now that you can see better, so if you go to where you have your first fruit, and when I say first fruit, I mean first from the bottom. So follow your plant up. This is my first fruit. Now if you go down one branch from that, so we're not going to count this branch, we're going to go down one more, which is down here. This sucker right here you want to keep. So you see that guy? Sorry, my phone keeps focusing and unfocusing. This guy here we want to keep. So in between this one. So follow your branch up. You've got your first fruit. You've got your sucker here. That is on the same branch as your first fruit. Go down a branch. You've got your sucker here. This is the one you want to keep, and then anything else can go. So that guy is good for now. Look how much that opened up the bottom of my garden. So now my marigolds can get some sun. We're gonna do the same thing to this one over here. This plant, I'm gonna grab his card here, is actually determinate. He is not indeterminate. These ones are a little bit different. So these you don't want to prune as much because they're only going to get so big and then they're actually going to stop growing. They have like a predetermined final growth and how much fruit they're going to bear for you. So with him, all I did was trim up the bottom. So I took off that bottom, 6 to 8 inches. And then I just kind of rearranged his leaves so that he's being supported a little bit more by the cage. With these ones, you can take off some branches if you need to that don't have fruit on them. You don't want to take off any branches with fruit. These ones just kind of leave alone. I don't prune them as much unless they start getting disease, things like that. Very different than your indeterminate tomatoes. So make sure you keep your cards, and I always poke those in the dirt because I can't remember every single type of tomato and if it's determinate or indeterminate. So I just poke my cards back there so I can refer back to them later. So yeah, look at this. It looks good, huh? We got it all cleaned up. The bottom is nice and open now so that we can come in here and water. And next I'm gonna have to start working with these cucumbers. These guys are getting a little out of control, but remember I told you last year it was 2 years ago, my cucumbers took over everything. It was crazy.